What if I told you that the only thing standing between you and extraordinary wealth is not your bank account, not your background, not your education, not your connections, but simply the story your mind tells itself every single morning when you open your eyes? What if the wealthiest version of you already exists, right now, waiting on the other side of a 14-day mental shift that costs you absolutely nothing but your old way of thinking? What if the universe has already written your name on a fortune, but you keep returning it unopened because you don't believe it belongs to you? 14 days. That is all I am asking you to give me. Not your money, not your time, not your resources. Just 14 days of thinking, feeling, breathing, and acting as though the wealth you desire is already, completely, undeniably yours. Stay with me through every word of what I am about to share with you, because by the time we reach the end of this, something inside you will have already begun to change. And change, my friend, is where every fortune in the history of humanity has always begun. What if the only prison you have ever lived in had no walls, no bars, no chains, only thoughts? What if every wealthy person who ever walked this earth did not begin their journey with money in their pocket, but with a specific, burning, unshakable conviction in their mind? A conviction that said, without apology, without hesitation, without a single shadow of doubt, this wealth is mine. It already belongs to me. I am simply walking toward what is already waiting. I want you to stop for a moment. Stop the noise. Stop the scrolling. Stop the excuses your mind has been rehearsing for years. And I want you to truly hear what I am about to tell you, because this single idea, properly understood and properly applied, has the power to transform every area of your financial life within a period of time so short it will shock you. 14 days. That is the experiment I am placing before you today. Not a theory, not a philosophy locked inside the pages of a dusty old book. A living, breathing, testable, repeatable experiment that has produced millionaires, transformed paupers into prosperous men and women, and rewritten the financial destinies of ordinary people who simply made one extraordinary decision. The decision to assume the wealth was already theirs. Now I know what is happening inside your mind right now. I know because I understand the human mind with the intimacy of a man who has studied it, lived it, and watched it perform miracles and disasters with equal precision. Your mind is saying, this sounds too simple. Your mind is saying, if it were this easy, everyone would be wealthy. Your mind is saying, who am I to assume I already have what I have not yet received? And that voice, that precise, familiar, comfortable voice of doubt, is the single most expensive thing you will ever own. Because doubt does not just sit quietly in your mind. Doubt works. Doubt is industrious. Doubt wakes up before you do and begins preparing the evidence for your limitations before your feet even touch the floor in the morning. Doubt finds the reasons you cannot. Doubt rehearses the failures of your past. Doubt whispers the statistics of the unsuccessful and presents them to you as prophecy. And here is what most people never realize. The mind working against you with doubt is using the exact same mechanism as the mind working for you with faith. The machinery is identical. The only variable, the only difference between the man drowning in poverty and the man swimming in prosperity is what that machinery is being fed. So let us talk about what it truly means to assume wealth is already yours. This is not pretending. This is not delusion. This is not walking into a store you cannot afford and purchasing things you have no business purchasing. Let me be absolutely clear about this because I refuse to allow a misunderstanding to rob you of one of the most powerful tools the human mind possesses. Assuming the wealth is already yours is a state of mind. It is an internal posture. It is the way a wealthy person thinks about problems, not as obstacles but as opportunities. It is the way a wealthy person approaches a conversation, not from desperation, but from confidence. It is the way a wealthy person structures their day, not around survival, but around creation. It is the way a wealthy person sees themselves in the mirror every single morning, not as someone waiting for permission to be prosperous, but as someone who is already, fundamentally, irrevocably wealthy in their core identity. And identity, not circumstance, is where all lasting wealth begins. Consider this with me carefully. Two men wake up in identical financial situations. Same bank balance, same bills, same challenges, same opportunities available to them in their city, in their industry, in their moment of history. But the first man wakes up and immediately begins calculating his limitations. He counts what he does not have. He rehearses what has not worked. He approaches every interaction with the invisible posture of someone who is behind, someone who is less than, someone who is on the outside looking in at the prosperity that belongs to other more fortunate people. The second man wakes up and does something radically different. He wakes up and for just a few powerful minutes, he sits in the absolute certainty of his future wealth as though it were his present reality. He feels it. He sees it clearly in his mind, not as a fantasy, but as a fact that simply has not yet appeared in the physical world. He approaches his day with the quiet confidence of a man who knows the outcome has already been decided. He speaks differently. He listens differently. He makes decisions differently. He sees opportunities the first man walks right past because his eyes are too clouded with limitation to recognize them. By the end of 14 days, these two men, who began in identical circumstances, are living in completely different worlds. Not because the universe favored one over the other, not because luck appeared on one doorstep and not the other, but because one man's mind attracted and one man's mind repelled the exact same abundance that was available to both of them equally. This is not magic. This is mental science. This is the precise, documented, reproducible science of how the human mind creates its external reality through its internal dominant thoughts. Your subconscious mind, and this is the part I need you to truly absorb. Your subconscious mind does not evaluate the instructions you give it. It does not question them. It does not fact-check them against your bank statement. It does not look at your current circumstances and say, "Well, I would love to help you, but have you seen the numbers?" It simply receives the dominant thought patterns your conscious mind repeatedly broadcasts, and then it works. 24 hours a day without rest or interruption to bring your physical reality into alignment with those dominant thoughts. This means that if your dominant thought is scarcity, if you wake up thinking about bills, sleep thinking about debt, and spend your waking hours rehearsing financial anxiety, your subconscious mind receives scarcity as the instruction and begins with extraordinary precision and loyalty to create more of it. But if, for 14 consecutive days, you shift that dominant thought pattern to wealth already possessed, if you feed your subconscious mind the consistent, emotionally charged, vividly detailed instruction that the wealth is yours, that it is real, that it is certain, your subconscious mind will begin reorganizing every element of your thinking, your perception, your creativity, and your action in the direction of that new dominant instruction. And here is where it becomes absolutely thrilling. When your subconscious mind receives the instruction of existing wealth and begins working to validate it, something extraordinary starts to happen in your conscious behavior. You start noticing opportunities you were previously blind to. You start making bolder, more aligned decisions. You start having different conversations, conversations that come from confidence rather than desperation, and confident conversations produce different outcomes than desperate ones. You start investing your hours differently. You start attracting different people into your orbit, people who are themselves operating from abundance rather than scarcity. This is not coincidence. This is cause and effect operating at the level of the mind. Now, I want to address something that every single person hearing these words is going to encounter somewhere between day 2 and day 4 of this 14-day experiment. And I want to address it directly and forcefully, because if I do not prepare you for it, it will end your experiment before it has a chance to produce results. On day 2, 3, or 4, reality is going to push back. Your bank account is still going to show what it showed before you began. Your bills are still going to arrive. The people around you, the ones who have never questioned the limitations they inherited from their environment, are going to continue speaking the language of scarcity, and they are going to look at you with skepticism when your energy begins to shift. Your own mind is going to produce doubt with ferocious intensity because the mind resists change, even when that change is the most magnificent thing that could ever happen to it. And in that moment, in that precise moment of resistance and doubt and apparent contradiction between what you are assuming and what you are seeing, your entire future will be decided. Because the person who pushes through that moment, the person who looks at the pushback and says, "I do not care what my eyes are telling me. I know what is true at the level of my mind. I know what is coming. I know what is already mine." That person has just crossed the threshold that separates every unsuccessful person from every successful one who ever lived. Faith is not comfortable. Faith is not easy. Faith is not the absence of evidence to the contrary. Faith is the decision to hold your mental position in the face of all contradicting evidence. And that decision, sustained with consistency and emotional intensity, is what eventually forces physical reality to conform to mental reality. Think about every great structure ever built, every skyscraper, every bridge, every cathedral. Before a single stone was laid, before a single beam was lifted, before a single nail was struck, that structure existed completely and perfectly in the mind of its architect. The physical building was simply the inevitable result of a mental conviction held with enough clarity, enough intensity, and enough sustained focus to eventually command the physical world to mirror it. You are the architect of your financial life. Your mind is the blueprint room. And the 14-day experiment I am describing to you is the process of drawing an absolutely clear, absolutely certain, absolutely uncompromising blueprint of the wealth that is already yours. Let me be specific about how you do this, because a principle without application is merely entertainment, and I did not come here to entertain you. I came here to transform you. Every morning, the very first act of your mind before the world rushes in with its noise and its demands and its contradictions, you will spend time in complete clarity on your specific wealth. Not vague wealth, not "I want to be rich someday" wealth. Specific, exact. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What do you do with it? Who does it allow you to become? What problems does it solve? What freedom does it create? Vagueness is the enemy of manifestation. The universe does not respond to maybes. The subconscious mind cannot act on approximately. You must be specific with the precision of a surgeon and the certainty of a person who has already cashed the check. Feel it. This is not optional. This is not a nice addition. This is the fuel that powers the entire engine. Thought without emotion is like a car without gasoline. It has all the right parts and it will go absolutely nowhere. When you sit with your wealth assumption each morning, you must feel the emotion of it, the gratitude, the freedom, the joy, the relief, the excitement. Feel it as though it were happening right now, in this body, in this moment, on this day. Then carry that feeling, that assumption into every interaction, every decision, every conversation of your day. Not with arrogance, not with delusion, but with the quiet, dignified, unshakable confidence of a person who knows something others do not yet know, who knows that the wealth is coming, who knows it is already real at the level of the mind, who knows that the physical evidence is simply on its way. And in the evening, before your mind surrenders to sleep, return to it. Because the moments just before sleep are among the most powerful moments for subconscious programming that exist in your entire day. The subconscious mind is extraordinarily receptive in that threshold state between waking and sleeping. What you place in your mind in those final moments is what your subconscious mind will work with all night long. Spend 5 minutes before sleep in the absolute, emotional, vivid certainty of your wealth already possessed. Let that be the last instruction your conscious mind gives before handing the controls to your subconscious. And then watch, with patience, with faith, and with the certainty of a scientist who knows his experiment is working. Watch what begins to appear in your waking life. Now I want to speak to you about something that is perhaps the deepest truth embedded in this entire principle. Something that most people miss entirely because they are so focused on the technique that they overlook the transformation. The 14-day wealth assumption experiment is not primarily about attracting money. It is about becoming the person who is naturally, authentically, habitually wealthy in their thinking, because that person inevitably, unavoidably, as certainly as the sun rises, produces wealthy results in their physical world. You see, money is not the destination. Money is the shadow. The substance is the person, the thinking, the identity, the mental posture, the emotional frequency. Get the substance right, and the shadow follows automatically. Pursue the shadow while neglecting the substance, and you will chase money for the rest of your life and arrive breathless and empty-handed at the end of it. The 14 days are designed to begin the process of substance transformation, to begin rewiring who you are at the level of your deepest habitual thought patterns, to begin installing, in the very architecture of your mind, the identity of a wealthy person, so that wealth is not something you chase, but something you express. And here is what I want you to understand about the 14 days specifically. 14 days is not an arbitrary number. It is the beginning of a threshold. Research into human habit and mental reprogramming consistently points to approximately 2 weeks as the period required for a new mental pattern to begin establishing itself as a habitual groove in the mind. After 14 days of consistent practice, the new pattern has enough momentum to begin sustaining itself. This means that if you commit fully, not half-heartedly, not when it feels convenient, not when doubt is quiet and faith is easy, but every single day with complete intensity and conviction, by the end of 14 days, you will not be the same person who began the experiment. Your thoughts will be different. Your posture will be different. Your decisions will be different. Your conversations will be different. Your eyes will have been trained to see what they could not see before. Your mind will have been calibrated to the frequency of abundance. And from that new calibration, your actions, and therefore your results, will be irreversibly changed. I want to speak to you now about one final element of this experiment that I consider the most important of all. More important than the morning practice, more important than the evening ritual, more important than the specificity of your vision or the intensity of your emotion. Persistence. Not the kind of persistence that grits its teeth and suffers through. The kind of persistence that comes from absolute certainty. The kind that never even considers quitting because quitting would be as illogical as the sun deciding not to rise. The kind of persistence that looks at setbacks not as evidence of failure, but as the natural turbulence of a system reorganizing itself toward a higher order. Every single person who ever achieved extraordinary wealth, whether they built it from nothing or multiplied what they inherited, every single one of them possessed this quality above all others. They simply would not stop. Not because they were fearless, not because doubt never visited them, but because their commitment to their mental vision was stronger than any external circumstance that attempted to contradict it. That is the person this 14-day experiment is designed to create in you. That is the person already sleeping inside your current limitations, waiting to be awakened by 14 days of conscious, deliberate, emotionally charged assumption. The wealth is already yours. It exists in the realm of thought, which is the only realm that matters, right now, complete and perfect. Your 14 days are simply the bridge between where that wealth lives in your mind and where it will soon live in your bank account, your business, your relationships, and every corner of your physical existence. Begin today, not tomorrow, not Monday, not when circumstances feel more aligned. Today, this moment, with this breath, assume it, feel it, hold it, protect it from the doubt of your own mind and the skepticism of the world around you. Carry it through every moment of every one of these 14 days with the absolute, uncompromising certainty of a person who already knows the outcome. Because you already do. The wealth is waiting. The blueprint is drawn. The only remaining question is whether you will step fully into the identity of the person it already belongs to. I believe you will. I believe you are ready. And I believe that 14 days from now, you will look back at this moment as the precise turning point where everything changed.